Hello, 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 and welcome to Dr. Tumor Talks, the Dr. Tumor Talk Show on blackdoctor.org and on Dr. Tumor Facebook page and YouTube channel. And thank you for coming. And if you're watching, say hello. And if you come watch later, please put hashtag replay. And um, the Dr. Tumor Show is everything about health, wellness, and weight care. I'll talk a little bit and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. I am Dr. Catherine Toomer. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, I am a family medicine and community health physician, and I specialize in weight care. And I help people who help maximize their health and wellness through weight care in a way that's complete and compassionate. I also help physicians create successful weight care practices so that they can provide complete and compassionate weight care to their patients. And so today, I want to say hello to those who are here, Jennifer and Ursuline. Thank you for joining. And I wanted to talk about overcoming the fear and stigma of GLP-1s. I have several friends, several family. I have many people who have followed me on social media who contact me about their fear of taking GLP-1s, mainly because of things that they saw on the internet, things they've heard from family members. And I just want to help because these are really good medications. Of course, there's some contraindications and there are complications, just like with any medication. Anything that's used inappropriately or prescribed inappropriately or that is not monitored correctly can always go sideways, no matter what the medication is. And these are no different. It's just that there's some reasons for this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about these today. So, what we need to understand is it's understandable that people are afraid of GLP-1s, particularly when they hear things like Wegovy and Ozempic, particular Ozempic. And I suspect that many of the GLP-1s are being called Ozempic, whether they are or not, or whether they're compounds or not. And and so all the negative things that are happening are all kind of pushed onto Ozempic. And, that happens. We call Band-Aids Band-Aids, even though it's only one brand. You know, some places call Coke Coke. And, so I probably shouldn't have eaten my banana bread right before coming. Anyway, so one of the things that happened, there's a lot of fear mongering. There's a lot of vitriol. People just really nasty around these medications and those who are taking it, which of course creates some of the stigmatization around the medicines. Oh, you're taking the easy way out, or people aggressively imposing their opinions on the process who've never had a weight issue themselves, who've never had to take medication for any reason. They just have their opinions and they have anonymity and they have the internet. And so they can attack if they want. But a lot of the stigmatization and the vitriol and the fear mongering that we're seeing is really the prejudice and bias of obesity being projected onto these medications. The other thing that's being projected onto them is the toxicity of diet culture. There has always been people who have acted inappropriately in the process of trying to become thin. And these medications are no different. They're being abused for that purpose. They're not the only medications being abused. There are many that are like pain medications, like ADHD medications, like anti-anxiety medications. And so these aren't new, but it just seems that because people have a lot of bias and prejudice around obesity and there's so much toxicity around dieting that they've been projected onto these medications. So what we're seeing is um, that the multitude of different psychosocial components coming together, creating this problem. The internet has its issues, and when you combine it with diet culture issues, medication issues, with other biases and prejudices, and they all come together and it just makes this nasty storm of of that scares people away. And so what I wanted to talk about was, because they're good medication and there are many people who need them, who can respond to them, who can do well on them. And so um, what it does is it harms that process by making people avoid taking medication that they really could use and really could be very beneficial for them, and that would be safe for them. Um, and there's this misconception that being overweight or being obese or having obesity is the outward manifestation of internal failure, internal personal failure, when in fact it's the other way around. What obesity is the external manifestation of an internal um, it's an internal problem of hormones and metabolic processes that is now being expressed externally. And so the problem isn't the person, it's our genetics. It is the way our body handles food. It is the way that our metabolism works. And so all of those things contribute to fat production. And that's why these medications work so well, because they reverse that process. Um, so how do they work? So they work by shifting the process of our body making really, really, really efficient fat. Our body gets really, really good at making fat when we have metabolic and hormonal issues. In regards to GLP-1, they work to block that process and reverse it. Now, the way you determine if you have an issue, if you're scared, if you're fearful, this is what you do. You replace GLP-1 with any other medication or any other thing that you consume. And if you, in your process, ask a lot of questions about GLP-1s, which you should, but do you ask those same questions about your other medications? Do you ask yourself the same thing about any food you're about to eat? Do you ask yourself about anything else that you consume? And if not, then recognize that you have absorbed some of the negativity and you absorb some of um, that biases and some of that prejudice. That's a good test to tell. If you take Tylenol is, now we know Tylenol can cause liver damage. That's not saying not to take it. It can be taken very safely. We don't think, though, as hard about taking them as they take metabolic medications, which actually save your life. Tylenol does take away pain, but it's not a life-saving medication. GLP-1s are actually life-saving medications. And so when asking your physicians, when asking people, make sure that it's a process that you apply to everything, not just to these medications. Um, and so I've made notes because I wanted to make sure that I got everything in today. So a good way, if you like, again, ask your question, replace with vitamin C. If you still have that same question about vitamin C, then you're on the right track. If you don't have that same question about vitamin C, you're probably projecting onto a process inappropriately. And one of the things that happens, and the reason this happens, is because people project their opinions onto our process, mainly because we allow them to. Our health is not a spectator sport. Yes, other people are affected. Yes, other people see the changes, but it's not a spectator sport. So when doing anything of any nature to improve your health, that's yours. Keep it close to your chest and tell people to mind their own business. Of course, sometimes you can't do that, but really, truly, it's not their business, particularly total strangers who decide, who try to interject what these medications are do, who've never had a medical issue, who've never had a weight issue, who've never taken these medications, who probably don't know anyone who's taken these medications, and definitely are not healthcare professionals who know better. They're just simply people on the internet telling you what to do. So if you're going to listen to someone, listen to your physicians who are actually in the business of trying to save your life. Um, so I kind of say this. If you're trying to learn how to walk, and I mean, so say you decided you're going to run a marathon, and you're getting all ready and you're getting everything together to run this marathon. You don't start listening to a toddler who's just learning how to walk, how you're going to run this marathon. You go to people who know how to train you. You go to people who've done it many, many times before, who are experts, who are experienced, and who have the education to back it up. So don't allow that crowdsourcing to happen when it comes to your medication that you very well could need, especially if your doctor says that you do. And so the best way to do that is to ask yourself, would I be this scared if this were Tylenol? Would I be this scared if this were vitamin C? Would I be this scared if this were ibuprofen? Did I ask these questions when I was taking my hypertensive medicines? Did I ask these questions when my doctor said I needed medication for my thyroid? Did I ask these questions when my doctor asked me if I told me I needed medication for anything? If not, then you know that you've internalized the toxicity of diet culture, the toxicity and the bias and the prejudice of obesity, um, anti-obesity attitudes. And and the reason this is so important, because if you need these medications, you have a window when they are most effective. There's a point where your body is going to deteriorate. Metabolic issues do not correct on their own. Hormonal issues do not correct on their own. If left untreated, they will continue to worsen, and there will come a point where they can no longer be fixed. GLP-1s help prevent that from happening. They keep you from going down that continuum, but there's going to be a point where you just simply cannot come back. And that's why um, understanding them and understanding why you're afraid of them or why you're hesitant is really important, because there will come a point when they will no longer be enough to work. And this is really for any health process. There's going to be a time when that process worsens, and then there's going to be a time when it just kind of keeps going and it slides off on its own, and there's no way to pull back. Prevention is so much easier than reversal. And especially now that we know GLP-1s help reverse cardiovascular disease, they help prevent dementia, they help prevent kidney disease, they help with any of the small vessels diseases that we see in skin, the neuropathies we see with diabetes, and all the small vessels of the heart and heart muscle protection. And so they just do so much anti-inflammatory properties. They just do so much good. And why when I hear people scared to take them, I kind of get up on my soapbox, because I know how much benefit they have. As long as you're being monitored properly, you're being dosed appropriately and correctly, they work very, very well. They're very, very safe, and they do a lot of really, really good. So I'm just another side of my notes, because like normally I don't keep notes, but this was too important for me to forget anything, so I made sure I wrote it down. Um, there is a high cost to ignoring symptoms. There is a high cost to not taking the time to treat what needs to be treated, for allowing things to continue. If that thing manifests as fat production, being overweight, or obesity, it costs you in other health problems. It costs you in psychological reaction to being overweight in a society that tells you thin is more important. It costs you in self-esteem, again, in a place where we're told that, being overweight means you have some type of personality weakness or personal weakness. It lends itself to worsening mental health issues. It can create mental health issues, not because of it in and of itself, but because of societal reaction, the isolation, the meanness, the lack of compassion that happens because of people's biases and prejudices. It's one of the last acceptable prejudices in this country, in the United States. And so there are just so many, so we react to that. But the other thing that there's also a social cost. When you're in a situation where you're being told that your value isn't as great as other people's, it's very easy to not keep social boundaries. It's very easy to become a people pleaser. It's very easy to then put other people before yourself. And so there's a biological cost, there's a psychological cost, and there's a social cost. And otherwise, it wouldn't matter. Some of that's societal, but some of it is biological, and we can prevent any of the biological things that happen so that you can enjoy the psychosocial along with everyone else. So, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, and again, family medicine and community health physician for those of you who signed in later. And I am the founder of Total Weight Care Institute, where I talk about all things health, wellness, and weight care. And so now what I'm going to do is get into some of the questions. I see a lot of hellos. Hi, all. Um, so Brittany says, you need to shout this from the mountaintops. There's so much media created stigma around these life-saving medications. It's just sad. It is very sad. I've been prescribing GLP-1s for over 10 years. I've never seen anything like this. This has only been in the last couple of years. No one had a problem when we were just treating diabetics or when it wasn't obviously being used for anti-obesity. Soon as we started using it for weight loss, we were using it off label for weight loss, but when it became indicated for weight loss, suddenly everybody had a problem. Alfreda says, good evening, regular listener lately. I appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in. Kristen says, hi, I'm picking up my Zepbound this week, finally. So glad I caught this because I too was had a little anxiety about starting it. Of course, because why wouldn't you? There's not a lot of good information out there. You hear a lot of negativity, which generally comes through more loudly than the positive. And so, but again, it's no different than picking up any pill and taking it. In fact, it's safer than many of the pills that are over the counter, to be honest. Will Zepbound be more accepted with insurance eventually since it's more effective? Now, it's not more effective. Well, let me put it this way. It is only more effective when stress contributes to the weight gain because of cortisol, the effects of cortisol. So if cortisol is a contributing factor to the weight gain, then yes, the tirzepatide, Zepbound, Mounjaro, they do work better. However, if cortisol stress is not related, then Ozempic, Wegovy are extremely good. It's a very, very good medication. And until recently, that was the best of the best that we had. And there'll be others coming out. And then Zepbound will be the one that nobody wants. So yes, it will get easier because there's going to be newer ones coming out. There's some already being researched and being tested right now. They're in trials. And so once they come out, Zepbound's going to be the old medication and it's going to be easier. I'm already seeing it being covered more readily. The problem we're running into isn't the coverage only, but also the supply. And when we run out of supply, we can't get supply, then of course we tend to turn to compounds. However, there are safe compounds, there are unsafe compounds. And now there are regulations saying that we can't send compounds. So that's a whole nother ball of wax. So we'll and are there any other questions? I'm going to try to go up because I may have missed some near the top. And I just want to make sure let's see. I don't know if it's going to let me. Oh, there we go. Okay. No, I don't see any other questions. So if you have questions or you think of something later, you can put them in the comments and I will see them. I have the notifications on, so I will see them. If you think of topics that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know because I really don't mind. And I know I've been talking a lot about GLP-1s and weight care and weight care treatment. Next month is mental health month, and I will be talking a lot about mental health. That is another area that I'm very, very passionate about. And so, of course, I will relate some of it to weight just because that is also my area of expertise, but not only. So, it doesn't have to be about weight. If you have questions about other things, I will talk about them. And if it's something that I'm not comfortable talking about or it's not my area of expertise, I can get someone else to come in and talk with me and I can interview them and ask them the questions. And then you can come on and ask them the questions as well. So, um, oh, thank you, Corday. Jennifer, what can we do to manage side effects? Okay. The way you manage side effects of any medication is you start low and go slow. So, depending on the severity of the side effects, depending on how much they affect your life, if they affect your life to the point where you just aren't getting stuff done, it's affecting your activities of daily living, you're bathing, you're eating, you're moving around and whatever, then speak to your doctor about possibly creating a situation where you can either go, you can drop the dose a little bit. If they're just a little bit annoying, but it's not keeping you from doing anything, you stay on that dose until those side effects go away. Most of the side effects with GLP-1s go away over time. But you don't want to raise your dose if you're already having side effects and those side effects haven't gone away because they'll only get worse. The worst of the side effects are nausea, constipation. Those are the most common that people talk about. The other that I see a lot is people's appetite dropping to the point where they don't want to eat. That can be dangerous also. And it's not, it takes away from it being a healthy process. So then you start adjusting doses down until that part goes away. Okay. I just started. Is there amount of time that it really starts to work? It's not the amount of time that determines when it works, it's the dose. So everybody's different. Some people feel the first dose right away. Other people, it takes a few iterations. So you have to go up a little bit. And every time you titrate up, which is the first dose is not supposed to do anything other than keep you from having side effects at higher doses. And so for some people, they feel it. Most people don't. And so they may wait till the next dose or the third dose. I actually have been on a GLP-1 now for 10 years. Um, and for even when changing over from the highest dose of one to the middle dose of another, it still took a while before I got back to where I was in terms of the effectiveness. I so there it just really depends. And also depends on your other diagnoses, what's your metabolism like? Do you have thyroid issues? Are you diabetic? Um, how much weight do you have to lose? It's just there's so many factors. There's just no way of knowing. It's different for every single person. Um, I've been on Ozempic for 2 months and 10 pounds down. Yeah, some people just respond that way. You just respond very quickly and very easily, and other people don't, but it's different for every single person. You cannot compare yourself to someone else's process. The one thing you do want to do, whatever dose you're on, you want to lose anywhere from 1 to 2 pounds a week. That's the healthiest of weight loss. And the reason, especially it depending on how much weight you have to lose, but the faster you lose weight, the easier it is to gain it back. The slower you lose weight, the better your body has to adjust to that weight loss. And so it will keep you from gaining it back. It resets and its set point keeps changing and coming down. So if you lose it slowly, again, your body just gets used to being at that weight and wants to stay there. But you lose it quickly and your body's immediately trying to send you back to where you were. Um, So let me see. Hi, Moni. Yeah, you can watch the first part, and just ask questions. You can put questions in the comments, and I'll get to them. So Alfreda says, great catch you live, Dr. Toomer, GLP user since January 2024. The tirzepatide is working and I'm learning my role as well. Absolutely. And that's wonderful. Again, and there's many of us out there who happily help with helping anyone understand what it is that's going on. And so I'm glad that you're getting good results and because what that means is that there's a metabolic process that wasn't being treated and now it is. So Karen asked, what about Saxenda? Do you know anything about people taking these GLP-1 drugs being linked to Steven Johnson syndrome? I had Steven Johnson 3 years ago after taking hydrochloroquine for arthritis. Okay. Usually I have not heard of anything related to Steven Johnson syndrome. Steven Johnson syndrome is an autoimmune reaction to medications. And so if you're someone who has a certain type of arthritis, so you clearly have an autoimmune disease of some type, that your arthritis sounds like it's autoimmune, it can manifest in so many different ways. And it can manifest with any type of medication. So there really is no way of knowing if this is one of the medications your body's going to react to. However, what I am seeing with GLP-1s is that people who have inflammatory processes, including rheumatoid arthritis, are finding that their arthritis is being better controlled. Their inflammation is coming down. But again, every person can react differently. And if you already you're predisposed to autoimmune reactions to anything, this could be one of them. So I cannot tell you definitively that they're not linked necessarily. But when you have, like I said, any type of autoimmune disease, it can manifest anywhere at any time. But I have found that GLP-1s tend to reduce the autoimmune reactions when it works well. Nicola says hi. Tell her I said hi. The availability of Zepbound is scarce. Can starting over at 2.5 have benefits after you've been on a higher dose? Well, yes. Any medication is better than none. If you've been off of it for a while, it's required that you start back at the beginning, mainly because your body no longer can adjust to the higher doses. And if you take a high dose after being off for more than 30 days, generally you will have really bad side effects. Your body will rebel against that high dose. So it's always important to start back over. Generally, though, you can titrate faster when you've been on it before, depending on what dose you were on. So you don't have to stay on it a month like before. Sometimes you can take it a couple weeks, see that you're not having side effects, go up. And if you're not having side effects, you can go up again. But as soon as you have side effects, you've got to hold. And you hold until those side effects go away. Mona says I was at a stall for 2 months. I just started back to dropping the weight. I had to incorporate everything you've been teaching me over the last months. Well, I'm glad that what I'm saying helps. And essentially, when you stall, there's a couple of things that are probably happening. Either one, the medication has completely treated the metabolic process that you have, and there are other reasons why your body's holding on to fat. Or you're eating too little, so your metabolism is dropping. So you're not eating enough calories, so you just need to up your calories and eat more regularly. 3, you're not drinking enough water. 4, not getting enough sleep, so those hormones that help with weight loss aren't being created. Your stress levels aren't coming down. Stress management is extremely important when in a weight management program, because the stress cortisol will just make your body make fat out of food. And that's just all there is to it. The other is making sure there's no underlying diagnoses like hypothyroidism or something else that will make you retain fluid, like any cardiac disease or kidney disease. So yes, muscle, muscle, muscle. Anytime you have a stall, muscle generally will counter it, as long as your stress levels aren't too high. But it's really important that you maintain muscle. So there's many pillars of weight loss. Medication is just one of them. Jacqueline says, I'm considering opening a weight loss clinic. What challenges will I have as a non-physician? A lot. And be honest, it's a lot. Um, it's not it's not knowing what to do when everything's going well. It's what knowing what to do when something goes sideways. And with any medication, when prescribing, it can go sideways. So I would say if you're going to open a weight loss clinic, do it with a partner who knows the medications and knows what to do. Um, as a professional, it just happens I know who you are. So, but I'm not going to call you out in front of everyone, but I know that you are a professional who understands medications, who understands complications, who understands how things can go wrong. So, let me ask you this. I'm considering opening a teeth whitening clinic. What would be the challenges as a non-dentist? Same question. So, um, it's just something you'd have to really take into consideration. When getting the compound medications still an issue. Sorry, I've been missed if you talked about that. Getting the compound medications can be an issue. It really depends on your state. It depends on the prescribing physician. Um, so now what some of the states are saying is that they're not allowing medications to be compounds to be mailed into their state. Other states are saying we don't mind if you mail it in, but it has to have an actual license of a physician from that state attached, which is, fine, except it's not as easy to get interstate licenses anymore uh, because of, and which is really, it's not just affecting compound medications, it's affecting telehealth, it's affecting a lot of things, not just this. Essentially what's happening, the pharmaceutical companies are losing money and they're trying to hold on to it. So they're getting states to ban the compound medications. And there's some bad players out. There are enough bad players out there so they can justify it. But there are also some really, really good ones, and they're doing a lot of good, and they're helping people who don't have access otherwise. And so we are fighting it. We're not taking it lying down. Just know that. Um, my hemoglobin A1C went down from 6.6 to 5.9. Wow, wonderful, especially in 2 months. Wow, because yeah, that's huge. So that's a great indication that your health is improving and that these medications really, really do work. Patricia says, I'm so glad I found you. I feel more informed now. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it because that's really why I do what I do. I just want people to get the information that they need so they can make informed decisions and educated decisions about themselves. And you can advocate for yourself because, you are the best advocate for your health. Bonnie says, I've been on Ozempic for a year, but I have been stalled out losing weight for the last 2 months. But I keep tracking what I'm eating and trying my best. I just hope I start losing again. Now, remember, the weight loss is just a symptom of something else. So the medications are treating a metabolic process, but there could be other things going on, and those other things need to be addressed. Tracking food is fine, but protein, as long as it's protein is the most important food group when you're trying to lose weight. Managing carbohydrates is fine, except as long as it's not drastic, you still need glucose for energy. Especially if you're on a GLP-1, because your body's now very efficient at making energy out of your carbs. So if you stalled, and then sometimes we stall when our body likes where we are. We sometimes have a number in our head that says we want to get to this weight, and your body says, well, really, you're healthier 10 or 20 pounds heavier than that. And it just won't let you get down to that number that you've got in your head because it's either not realistic or it's just not realistic for your health parameters. And so sometimes, people like, I want to get back to where they were when they were 20. Well, your body might say you weren't a healthy weight at your 20s. Now, with your muscle, with your bones, with everything else that's going on, I like you at a higher number. I like you with a little extra fat. I like you because I need it to make hormones. Our body makes hormones out of fat. And so if you lose all your fat, you lose all your hormones. And so sometimes your body just doesn't want you to go down anymore. So it just there are lots of different factors, and without knowing the specifics, it'd be hard to say. Golden says, my arthritis is definitely better since taking Zepbound, and I play tennis 2 to 3 times a week. Absolutely. It is amazing how, especially if your inflammation was related to blood sugar, um, then it definitely does help to reduce um, inflammation. And I love your name, Golden Phoenix. That's cool. Um, oh, Evangelist Pat Chambers Blackwood says, God bless you, Dr. and BDO. Thank you so much. Yes, for many of us, this is a ministry. It is. It's health is a ministry when it's done right. Jen says, I lost 40 pounds in 16 weeks on Zepbound, 1 month on 2.5, 3 on 5. I only moved to 7.5 because of availability. Can decreasing instead of increasing still have benefits? Yes, it just depends. So if you go up, and it just depends. And that's a question for your doctor, who really knows you well, who knows your parameters and understands what's going on. Because remember, these medications are treating something. They aren't just working in thin air. They're treating a metabolic process. So it is not about weight loss. Weight loss simply is a side effect of something else that's being treated correctly finally. And so if you're losing weight, what that means is that process still needs to be treated. Because if you start cutting back, it will reverse the benefits of what it's already doing. Weight is a symptom. And I can't stress this enough. Weight is a symptom of another process. And these medications treat that other process, but you can't see that. You can't see the chemical stuff that's happening. You can't see the biological stuff that's happening. You can't see what's going on in your cells. You can't see, except when it's fat loss. And that's why we tend to say it's about weight loss when really it's not. It's just the only thing we can measure externally. Are there any signs to be aware of for pancreas issues? That has me nervous. Oh, pancreas issues are painful. They're not subtle at all. If you have a pancreatic issue, every time you eat, it will feel like you're being stabbed right in the middle, like right below your ribs. It hurts. And what happens when your pancreas hurts? It hurts in the front, and then it goes straight through you to your back, and it hurts badly. Now, the other early sign of pancreatitis can be nausea that just will not go away every time you eat, particularly if you eat fat. So that means your gallbladder is an issue. You could have gallstones. Gallstones, when they start to shift and move, can cause a blockage, which then leads to pancreatic issues. Again, it's painful. It's not subtle at all. If you're concerned, there are blood tests that can be done to check your pancreas. Your doctor will do those. It's called a lipase, and you can check a level. But again, like I said, not a subtle sign at all. It hurts. Shelly, you share so much fantastic information. Asante Sana for being so easy to understand. Thank you. And for those who are Rafiki Yangu Swahili for my friend, Asante Sana, thank you very much. Shelly and I grew up together in Kenya. So thank you, Shelly. Cordai, that's why going to unlicensed clinics or non-physician facilities makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. However, people have been forced sort of there because there aren't just enough people enough people who know what they're doing to go around, and because we're sending mixed messages. We're telling people, if you're thin, you're more important, but don't do everything you have to get thin. And unfortunately, that's where we are. People have always gone to extremes to become thin, and this is no different. Alfredo says, what you say does help. My weight management doctor in Atlanta speaks what you speak. So I know there's a God. I'm so glad you have someone who's looking out for you, because that's really what matters most. Not what I say, but just that you're getting the information you need to empower yourself so that when it comes time to advocate, you know exactly what to say and do. And you know what to tell people who come at you. Because the truth is, people just don't know. Folks have a lot of opinions, but they're not the ones living your life. And these are life-saving drugs, and they do it very well for people who need them. Mona says, I had proteinuria prior to taking GLP-1s when my doctor did my labs. January, my proteinuria had been corrected, Grant. It wasn't at the high scale in my labs, but it was concerned since it was pandemic. Well, the thing is, what happens with proteinuria, the reason why you get proteinuria is protein in your urine. So for those of you who are wondering what that means. So protein in your urine happens because your kidneys get leaky. They get leaky because the cells start to come apart, and so stuff starts falling through. Protein is a big molecule. It should not be able to get through. So it only happens when the cells start to pull apart. The only time they pull apart is when there's inflammation. So these medications reduce inflammation. So what it does is it closes it back up. So only the small little particles get through like they're supposed to, like salt, like sugar, like water. Okay. Stalls are speaking. I usually pick up the water even more when things settle a little bit. Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's lots of different ways of breaking a stall, but mostly it's understanding why. There's always a why. And so when you look for the why, you know, and sometimes you can see the why, sometimes you can feel the why, other times it's just there and you just have to do little tweaks here and there. Everybody has their little, so this is what I say, and then I'll let everybody go because this is getting long. So everyone has their golden spot. There's several pillars of weight loss. And there's several pillars of weight health, I should say. And when you're in a weight health process, some people, that weight health process means gaining weight because they need muscle. Other people, that weight health process means losing because they need to lose fat and inflammation and the inflammation that fat causes. There are different sections of different ways this happens. And what you do is systematically go through every pillar to find that space that works best for you. And for every person, it can be different. That's why it is impossible to compare yourself to someone else. It is impossible for someone else who is not a medical professional to tell you what works best for you without lab results, without talking to you, without understanding all the parameters and everything that goes into weight loss, all the biology, all the psychology, and all the social issues that come along with it. And so that's why it's so important not to be frightened, not to be scared, and not to let anybody impose their prejudices and biases on you that prevent you from doing what's necessary to take care of your health. So, thank you for joining in with me this evening. For any of you who came late, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, founder of Total Weight Care Institute. I'm here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on the Dr. Toomer Talk Show. So please tune in here, tune in on we're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, blackdoctor.org, YouTube and Facebook channel, a YouTube channel and Facebook page. And then which is a Dr. Toomer, DRTOOMER, Facebook and YouTube. And you can also find me on my website as well if you have other questions. And I really do appreciate you joining in. I also have a Facebook group where if you have questions, you can get better access to me. And that is total I just blanked on my own group name. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to I'm going to put the link in the comments after this because I just actually I'll just write it down right now. So if you want to join my group, here we go. Oh, goodness. Groups / total. Okay. So that's the Facebook group if you'd like to oh, so it came up twice. So that's the Facebook group if you'd like to join it. And that's another place where you can ask me questions and get information I post in there also throughout the week. All right. So good night, everybody. Thank you for coming. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you again right here next week.